It's been nearly 10 years since the original Inside Out came out in theaters, and we once again jump back into the world of Riley's mind as we join with some lovable characters, some fresh faces, and encounter some interesting and rapid changes that happen in the mind of a teenager. Let's go and talk about Inside Out 2. Hey friends, welcome to the Disney Pastor. I'm your host Tim. I talk all things Disney, which includes Pixar animation. There's going to be spoilers for this review, so if you've not seen Inside Out 2 yet, go ahead and see it in theaters. Come back and we can talk about all things Inside Out 2. That being said, I'm going to talk about the good, the average, and the bad of this movie. I'll give you my final rating and thoughts. Without further ado, let's dive in to the good. That's good. One thing I love about Inside Out 2, and really just Inside Out in general, is the animation. It's very vibrant in its use of colors, and in my personal opinion, we get kind of a return to character form for Pixar. Pixar in the early 2020s, I mean, we're still in the early 2020s, but Pixar tried some new things. They tried some new character models, and some of it looked good. Others I would say I'm not the biggest fan of, but with Inside Out 2, it seems like a semi-return to form of the Pixar animation we know and love. And of course, they continue to enhance what makes animation so great. They try some new things here too. Obviously, I think Into the Spider-Verse, that franchise has really, I guess you could say, opened the eyes of many who work in animation to try new things, to take risks. And so Inside Out 2 definitely did that. I mean, you have a little bit of some video game animation, you have 2D animation, you have kind of drawing, cutout anime. I don't know what to call it, but there's some really unique animation that's done in here, and it is pretty nice to see a little bit of a change of pace. That is one thing they definitely did well with the first one. Another is the characterizations of the new emotions. In terms of new emotions, we get anxiety, ennui, which is like boredom. We get embarrassment and envy. All these are new emotions that join us, and I really think they did a fantastic job with it. I mean, obviously, when you're dealing with a singular emotion, you can really capitalize on it and really make it great. They do that again here. It was done very well in the first movie. It's done also as well in the second. Voice casting is great, led by, of course, Maya Hawke. She did a fantastic job playing anxiety. I really enjoyed these new characters. Overall, I think they are really fun, unique. They add just a new element into the story and overall just add to it. One of the things I really appreciated about this movie is how they handled the anxiety attack. I think they characterized it very well. I think they showed it in a way that kids can kind of understand it, but also paints a picture of kind of what happens when someone is going through an anxiety attack. As someone who has had that stuff before, has gone through an anxiety attack or two, I felt like this did a very good job at kind of showing a little bit of what that experience was like, and it helped to just kind of characterize that in a way that I felt was very fresh, but also like very careful with how to navigate it. I thought they did a very good job with that. And so that's something I definitely appreciate, and I think anyone who has gone through similar things, I think, can definitely appreciate that, because it is something that's hard. It's not an easy thing. I mean, you see the way Riley reacted, it was scary for her. And again, I think they did a really solid job handling this. The other part is the story. While I think it is very similar to the original story, very much MacGuffin-centered story, I think that they took it in some really solid directions, and overall it is a very entertaining story and something that sets it apart from the original. It does have a lot of similar elements to the original, a lot of callbacks, which is cool, but there is, I think, enough uniqueness to this story to help keep it fresh. And granted, the hard part is like, where would you go from here if it wasn't necessarily a MacGuffin story? And so I do appreciate just how they did that, and I think it worked overall quite well.
Something good, something bad, bit of both.
Moving on to the average stuff, I feel like this movie, even though it is a minute longer than the original Inside Out, it feels very fast paced, which isn't a terrible thing, but it is definitely noticeable, where it feels like we're just moving along very, very quickly to the next thing, next thing, next thing. And I feel like we could just take time to just sit. I would love some more time with some of the new emotions. I mean, we got a lot of time with anxiety, which is fine. I mean, anxiety is kind of the bigger emotion that is brand new. But that being said, again, I think I personally would have appreciated more time with, say, envy and embarrassment and ennui. We got some decent time with them, but not too much. That being said, I do like how we spent more time with anger, fear, and disgust more than we did in the original movie. So I do appreciate that, but at the same time, it did still feel very, very quick, and we moved through a lot of different things. And so pacing could have been a little slower. Another thing is, I feel like Sadness was very much sidelined. I mean, I understand that she had a very pivotal part of the first one, and that's one of the reasons I love the first one. But to see her kind of sidelined in this one, I don't know, it just felt weird. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, and so it just something I'm like, I wish this was a little bit different. But I also understand why she was, so she can be where she needed to be. And so it's like, I want a little bit more, but I understand why. So here we are. Before we move on to the bad and our overall thoughts, question of the day is this. If you had to pick one island of personality that you think is the biggest, like in this one, Riley's was Friendship Island. What do you think is the biggest island for you? I would love to hear that down in the comments below. I think for me, it's probably Faith. But that being said, join me down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what your island of personality is.
I have a really bad feeling about this.
There's one thing I noticed in this movie. It's that I feel like Joy is repeating the same mistake to the first one. We know that obviously she wanted to suppress sadness as much as she could because she felt like it was an emotion that did not belong. She come to later understand all emotions have their place. And she definitely does try that with the actual emotions themselves, but not the memories. It feels like, oh, I don't want her to deal with, these memories, so I'll suppress them in the same way she suppressed the emotions. And so it just felt like a repeat in that direction in terms of Joy's kind of character arc through the movie. And that was just something I noticed. I'm like, I would have loved to see her just kind of grow a little bit more than she did. But that being said, it was just something I noticed in watching this movie.
And so our journey comes to an end.
Overall, this is a really enjoyable film. I think this is a really solid sequel. I think this story went in new and exciting directions. I think they did a good job telling it. I think they did a good job kind of giving a little bit of what puberty is like. I feel like they did a really solid job there. One of my favorite things I loved was that they put a sign up that said puberty is messy. I found that very hilarious because it is true. But that being said, overall it's really solid. There are a few things here I wish was done a little differently. I think it's still a little too fast paced. I wish Joy didn't go through a similar character arc all over again. I wish Sadness was more involved. But overall, it's a really solid sequel. I don't think it is as good as the original, and that's very hard to top. The original is very, very good. But I do think it is one of the better Pixar movies, especially over the last several years. My personal opinion, probably the best since Onward. But that being said, I give it an 8.1 out of 10 with a fun factor of a B+. Again, this is a really enjoyable time. I think it's fun, something for the whole family. Let me know your thoughts, though, on the movie down in the comments below. I'd love to talk Inside Out 2 with you down there. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. It helps me know what you like, what you don't like. And if you're new around here, I want to say a special welcome to you. And if you're interested, be sure to subscribe down below and hit the bell to be notified for more videos just like this one. And I will see you all in the next one. Have a great day. Goodbye.